Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's technique video is going to be about rotation. I'm going to focus today on what's the most standard use of rotation, which is when notes are alternating in direction in something like an Alberti bass figure or a simple two-note figure, things like that. There are a couple of important things to understand about anatomy before playing rotation figures at the piano. The first is the design of the forearm. We have two bones in the forearm called the ulna on the pinky side and the radius on the thumb side. And the way rotation works is when I rotate my whole forearm, the ulna is the pivot of the rotation and the radius is moving over it. So you can feel that by taking your other hand and putting it right under the ulna, and you can feel that it's pretty much staying in the same place as the forearm rotates. You can take your other hand and put it right behind, follow the bone to the joint, and then go right behind it. And then you can feel the back of the elbow as the origin of the rotation movement. So it shouldn't be moving at all when you rotate. There's no shaking of the upper arm. It's just stationary elbow and forearm rotating. This means that no matter which fingers are in contact with the keys, we need to feel the origin of the rotation correctly and where the actual pivot is in the forearm. The next thing that's important to know about anatomy is that when you lift your arms up in front of you, the most neutral position in terms of rotation is to be rotated outward toward the pinky. So most of the time at the piano, our hands are going to be flat like this, but that's already a departure from the neutral position. So we need to just understand what we're doing there and know that the arms feel the most free and in their most natural position when you're rotated outward. Now, when we take the rotation movement to the keyboard, we're going to have certain fingers in contact with the keys, and then we're rotating between the contact points that we have on the keyboard. The first exercise my teacher gave me for this was to take fingers 1 and 4, but to basically imagine that you just have two fingers. You have the thumb and then the rest of your hand, but it's 4 that's actually touching the key. I'm going to use E to B flat. Okay, so thumb on E, 4 on B flat. Okay, now just feel the shape. You should be able to release a bit of arm weight onto it, and the bone structures in the hand are going to support you, and then start rotating from one side to the other. For this one, I'm going past the point of attack and going sort of further than where I play the 4, and then further than the thumb as well. And you can speed it up a little bit. And if you have neighbors who can hear you play, be sure to apologize to them after practicing that exercise. Now I'm going to move on to the white keys and maybe change up the fingers a little bit. Let's go with 2-4. Still feeling the forearms rotate just like before, but now I have different contact points on the keys. And I still want to feel a supportive structure on each finger, so that if I stop on the 2, I could let go of some weight, let go of my shoulders, and I still have support in the bone structures. I'm going to go from 2 to 4, make sure the 4 feels supported, and then start moving between them. You can use lots of combinations of fingers, but the principle is the same. No matter which fingers are playing, we want to maintain the alignment of the hand with the arm. So what I'm not doing, if I'm playing the thumb, for example, I'm not going to try to align my thumb with the forearm and think of this side of my forearm as a pivot, because it doesn't work that way, and that can lead to all sorts of tension and problems. So the hand stays aligned with the forearm even if I'm playing a thumb. Now, what I think is missing from a lot of discussions of rotation is that in an actual piece of music, we're not going to want to play the two notes exactly equal. One side is going to be emphasized over the other, and that will almost always be the note that falls on the strong beat. A quick example, just to show you what I mean, is Mozart's K545 Sonata. In that example, the lower notes of the left hand form a moving line, and it's much more interesting than the repeated Ds on the offbeats. The way we actually accomplish this is by having one side of the rotation as a pivot, and the other side, I'm going to call it the active side. So I can pivot on the pinky and rotate toward the thumb, or I can pivot on the thumb and rotate toward the pinky. And the way I'm doing it is by lifting the active side a little bit higher than the pivot side. For that reason, it's actually easier to pivot on the pinky because, as I said earlier, the neutral position of the forearms is rotated outward toward the pinky. So it's easier to lift the thumb side because the more I lift it, the more neutral the arm becomes. Pivoting from the thumb to the pinky, it's a little harder, and I'm helping by using other movements. The articulation of the fingers aids in doing that as well. So using a little bit of that to help that side of the hand lift. The same thing applies when you're using other fingers, like from 2 to 4, for example. I can pivot on 2, and the 4 is the active side in this case. Or I can pivot on 4 and make 2 the active side. There are lots of exercises and pieces you can use to practice rotation. Hand and study number 6 would be one example. I'll just use this to show how to group the notes. So what you want to do is think of 2 note groups going from the pivot side to the active side, or from the offbeat to the beat. So the C is by itself, and then I'm going to group the A to the G. And then you can take those groups and double them just to feel the contact points of the 2 fingers. Or you can work on rotation in real music, which tends to be my preference. There is a great Bach prelude from the 2nd book of the Well-Tempered Clavier, the G major. It has all kinds of rotation figures in it for both hands and going in both directions. So you can practice grouping the notes like I just said, so from the offbeat to the beat. In the B section, the right hand has rotation from the thumb, and then the left hand from the pinky. You can stop on any interval in here and check your balance on the 2 sides of the hand. In measure 17, I have a third. There's also a second. So I'm trying to feel on each side. There's a connection through the bones from the fingertip to the arm. And it should feel balanced if you let go a little bit of arm weight onto the key. The thumb and the 2, and then rotate between them and try to find the same shapes. So this is a fantastic piece to practice rotation with because it changes direction so much and it uses both hands equally. In the world of Chopin etudes, there are 2 that are based primarily on rotation, Opus 10 number 5 and Opus 2511. I think it's interesting that these 2 etudes are rotating toward different sides of the hand. So in Opus 10 number 5, the rotation is toward the thumb side, so the groups would be whereas in 2511 it's rotating toward the pinky, so and 2511 is the more difficult etude for multiple reasons, but partly because you have to rotate toward the pinky side and it requires more help from the finger action to make that work. That's it for rotation for today. If you have any questions on this, or if I've left anything out, you can let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer your questions there or in another video. Thanks for watching.